Jon Stewart was signed for another year of his contract at Comedy Central. There'd been a lot of questions and scrutiny over whether or not this deal was going to happen. Paramount, as everybody knows now, was recently just bought out by David Ellison and via his father, Larry. Lots of money, but they've very obviously turned the network to the right, hiring Barry Weiss and notably ending, right, Stephen Colbert's show on CBS, The Late Show. People are really upset about that. That's ending next year. But there'd been total silence around whether or not Jon Stewart was going to get another deal. So we found out this week they struck a deal for one more year. So he'll stick around on The Daily Show, hosting it on Mondays, executive produce the rest of it with the rest of the staff. Great show. I really enjoy actually that show these days. Feels like it's become actually very relevant once again in 2025, which has been a lot of fun. But you had some reporting behind the scenes on how this actually came together.
Well, you'll remember over the summer, I went to the Paramount press conference and I ended up having lunch to some extent with George Cheeks. For people who don't know who George Cheeks is, he's the head of Paramount Television now. So all the networks report to him, and that includes Comedy Central. And I asked George Cheeks at this lunch, like, are you going to renew Jon Stewart? What's going on there? And he didn't have an answer. He said, basically stay tuned. And there was no firm answer one way or another. It turns out that this renewal deal got done pretty, in the last few weeks. So early October, there is this meeting between George Cheeks, Jon Stewart, and Jon Stewart's agent, Baby Doll. So that was what he's known in the industry as. And this agent represents all the big comedians, Colbert, Kimmel, Jon Stewart. And they have this meeting, and over the next 3 weeks or so, 4 weeks, they hammer out a deal and they get it done. And I think it was important for a couple of reasons. One, it allows Paramount to be like, look, we're like at least signaling some independence from the Trump administration. We're not doing everything that he likes. Look, we got South Park, which is just, incinerating Donald Trump on a weekly basis, right? And then we got Jon Stewart renewed. And I think that's important because we just saw incredible backlash to ABC briefly suspending Jimmy Kimmel. And you can imagine that after installing Barry Weiss as editor-in-chief of CBS News, after putting that conservative ombudsman at CBS News, after ending The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, after all these decisions that have pushed the company in a pro-Trump direction, or at least friendlier waters to Donald Trump, that if they got rid of Jon Stewart in this moment, there would have been hell to pay. People would have been pissed, and it would have inspired a huge public relations nightmare for Paramount. It would have been covered on the press for days that they're capitulating yet again to Donald Trump. And I would guess, just seeing that after Disney briefly suspended Kimmel, that resulted in millions of cancellations to Disney Plus. I would bet that people would have started canceling Paramount. And I don't think that David Ellison and his executive team in this moment, as they're trying to actually rebuild this platform, want to deal with that. It's just not worth it.
Yeah. I mean, we saw a tsunami that washed over Disney, millions of subscribers canceling. And I can't imagine they want something like that as well. But also, it's a difficult case to make that Stewart is not performing well for them. I mean, the show has delivered fantastic ratings for them. Obviously, fewer people are watching linear cable television these days, but the show is doing really well in the ratings.
To play devil's advocate,
yeah.
Colbert's show was number one, and they ended that show.
Yeah. I mean, it was number one until the Jimmy Kimmel disaster, and I think he's been number one since, or, in some version of number one in the ratings. It's easy to manipulate those numbers. But I do think that it would be a really difficult... and so Stewart has come out. He was interviewed by David Remnick at the New Yorker Festival. And he said, I wanted this deal to happen, right? It was just sort of like, can we actually make it work out? At the festival, though, he also spoke about Joe Rogan and his place in the podcasting universe. Let's play this clip.
There are right-wing, weaponized commentators whose sole purpose is to manipulate things to the benefit of the Bannon Project or the Project 2025. Rogan's not that guy.
What is that guy? How would you describe
that guy? Is a curious comic who fell into this thing that got fucking enormous, maybe doesn't, has opinions all over the political spectrum, but has tendencies that people on the left does not fit the aesthetic. He's a
Well,
hunter.
I mean, in fairness, he's had people on who are kind of Nazi curious. That's not good.
I've interviewed Kissinger. And he was carpet bomb curious.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say. It's very easy to castigate those where we're but he had an opinion a few years back that's, corrosive.
But the difference is when he was carpet bomb curious, you didn't say, oh, yeah, that's awesome. And what happens with Rogan sometimes is he'll hear somebody that's on the dangerous end of the spectrum, and he'll just kind of soak it in.
And I think this is a great point. And it's whoever job who thinks that information is dangerous to fight to get their point of view out there to counter what they think is misinformation. You can't just deputize people to say he should have known better and he should have prosecuted that point.
But the reality is, John, is that it might be my job or the New York Times job or even your job, but I don't have the audience that Joe Rogan does.
Then get it.
Yeah,
then find
get
people
it.
who do. Then go on that show. Then do those things. It's not acceptable to just say, well, I don't like what he does. Then do it better. Beat them at their own game. It's not enough to just complain that guy got a platform and don't platform that guy. There's no one in this world right now that isn't platformed.
So kind of some surprising remarks from Jon Stewart there on Joe Rogan's responsibility as a podcaster. I mean, he is, the largest or one of the largest voices now in the online podcasting media space. And I'm kind of surprised that Stewart sort of washes the responsibility off of him here. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think, in Spider-Man, they say with great power comes great responsibility.
Yeah.
I think there's with a great platform comes also great responsibility. And Joe Rogan wields his platform in very irresponsible ways by mainstreaming people like Alex Jones, anti-vax conspiracy theorists, and just, all sorts of, he flirts with a lot of these radical figures in American politics today and brings them to large audiences who turn to him for information. And I think he legitimizes them. And I think that's not the responsible way to wield your platform, especially, I thought, during COVID, when, it was really life or death for a lot of people. And he was bringing on these vaccine people, and saying, well, they're saying it's not safe.
Right.
And at sometimes, he would get fact checked in real time. And it was but it's dude, you have a big microphone. Think twice before you say things to that large audience that's impressionable, that relies on you for this sort of thing. And I just think that Jon Stewart had a miss there. But I will say, Jon Stewart, as much as I like a lot of his commentary in comedy, has given, he's been willing to turn a blind eye to a lot of, some people on, in the politics today. I remember when Patrick Soon-Shiong, the red-pilled billionaire owner of the Los Angeles Times, went on a show. He gave them the softball treatment and didn't really confront him at all about how Patrick Soon-Shiong is destroying the Los Angeles Times. We're in LA here, and that paper has really slid considerably under his ownership. And so Jon Stewart, I like a lot of his comedy. I like when he's holding power to account, but at times, I gotta say, the guy does look the other way. I think if a friend, if there's a friend involved.
Yeah. I think part of this challenge is these are comedians, or these are people who are not journalists, right? They're not like you or I. They're not operating in a place where they think that the intention of their program is to provide factual information. They're entertainers. And so I think that they're not going to be reliable arbiters of places that you can go to if you just want to know what do I need to understand around this issue. I mean, like you said, Rogan put RFK on his show and Elon Musk and some of the stuff that's going on in here. It's sure, some of it's lighthearted and entertaining. Mm-hmm. It's kind of interesting to sort of get to know someone in a sort of long form conversation, right? That's very different than the short form social media clips. But if you're talking about these issues that are meaningful and weighty and that actually people's lives depend on, I do think that there's a responsibility there.
Thank you for watching Power Lines. For more analysis and insight, subscribe to our YouTube channel down below, like this video, And you can watch more of us right over here.